Once the photography thing really took hold, it became much clearer. But I don't think I'd describe it as a relief. It was just a change, and I think it can be a good thing to be very open-minded and not know which direction you're going in. So it was just a very clear change. It was like, this is what I want to do now. How do I do it? I guess people talk about once you figure out what you want to do, that it's this, this great moment in your life. But there's almost a pressure then to realize it and how you're going to go about making it all happen. So it can be, it can almost be a kind of a stress. Quitting my job was a big decision, I think. It was a CD here in Paris. It was a decent job, but at the time, I just felt I had to do this course, and I felt I was 26, 27. I think I felt kind of in a hurry, and in hindsight, it might have been, looking back at it now, what would have been a better decision was maybe to try and maybe do the course while I was working a bit, have a little bit of overlap. But instead I quit that 9-to-5 job, and then I started teaching English in Paris for about a year and a half while I was doing the course. And that worked in a sense, but it was a struggle, and it's obviously it's obviously been tough at times, in the last few years, because, photography, especially when you're starting out, it takes a while before you start making money. There are opportunities out there, and it is possible. The last year or so, I've been working professionally, and it hasn't been as tough as sometimes people make out. But it's definitely a grind. Making money from it is a grind, and you just have to. There's ways of doing it. Like, you just have to find your niche. So, is it print sales? Is it just commercial work? Is it editorial? And the thing is that I think photographers talk an awful lot about how hard it is and when they're doing badly. But there are photographers making a lot of money, but they're not going to be thinking about that much or talking about it much. So, I don't think people should think it's impossible in any sense. That's the experience that I've had in the last year and a half, 2 years now. I think it's doable. It's just whether the artwork is always the most important thing, I think. So whether you're going to be working commercially to fund that, or you do something else, it doesn't really matter, because often the work you're doing is so far away from your artwork that you might as well be working in an office as working commercially as a photographer. I realize it's really tough to keep your job and focus completely on something, but I think the best route, things just don't work out like that, but I think if you can have some sort of a structured road plan beforehand, so you're like, okay, so I'm going to finish this job in a year, by then I'll have this many clients, and it's probably a better way in doing it. But things like that, when you're so it's such a compulsion to follow that path, it can be difficult to think in a rational way. But try and just figure out, have a 5-year plan. That's what everyone says. Photography, you really have to be looking at the long term. It's a really slow burn. You're not going to get anything in 6 months, and then, with anything, if you put years into it, slowly it starts to pay off, and 5-year minimum even, I think 5 to 10 years is probably a better way of looking at it. So if you're someone who gets bored of things easily, and it mightn't be the best way to go. With me, the most important thing is just improving all the time. When I say, not necessarily making the best photo ever, just that the work is more meaningful and stronger, So at the moment, the way I work is I'm kind of on several projects at the same time. So there's the French projects, Contours and 50 High Seasons. And then there's the Dublin work that I've been making since I moved back to Dublin, which is called Inner Field. So going forward, ideally with at least 2 of those, I'd like to bring them to the book, which is just probably the best way to see them, because the chances of having an exhibition with 36 photos is not very high. Well, it might happen sometime, but in a book you can get it all nicely. That's kind of the main reason I think a book is important. There's lots of arguments for and against, but that's a big one. It's just, how often are people going to see all your work together like that? I tend to show the work while it's being made. That's just the way it's worked for me. So I don't make work and then, you know, ta-da, here's the book, disappear for 5 years and come back. I like to have edits up early, you know, change them, and it's a way of working that's kind of emerged with the internet, because you can be sharing work as you go. I mean, a lot of photographers would be against it, but I can't imagine working in a different way. I can't imagine I need to get feedback as I go. I think I'll always make work for the rest of my life. They'll just so not necessarily work professionally as a photographer on commercial or editorial work, although that is nice. No matter what happens, I see myself making project after project, whether anyone sees it or whether I go in a different direction to make money. It will always, the main aim will always be to make those projects happen, shoot the work, and then sequence it, and then make a book, ideally.